Hey folks, thought I'd just give a quick guide on fitting a 13 plug PF Jones, or what's the name of the company? The PF Jones dedicated wiring kit to I think it's a Mark 4 Kia Sportage. I couldn't find any decent guides, so I thought I'd sort of just give you some of the highlights of what I look out for. So first bit is you need to get that sort of left hand piece of plastic out, which to do that requires removing the back seat and the rear seat base. There's a few sort of hidden screws that you can't get to without doing that. So I think the first piece that had to come off was the piece of plastic along here, which pretty much just clipped off out of these holes here. So sort of pry underneath it, take the rubber off. That exposes one hidden screw there. Sorry about the plane. So there's a hidden screw there that you can't see without removing this piece here. There's a couple of screws along the bottom, two of which I think you can get into just by removing the boot floor, but the furthest away one is sort of under the seat, hence why the seat needs to come out. There was also one hidden screw in here, in this bit here. I think it's like a kind of luggage. It looked a bit like that. The one in the back corner here, which I don't know where it fixes to in here, but I'm not sure where it landed up in here. But yeah, there was that one hidden screw there to worry about. Take the light out. The back seats, I couldn't find a decent guide on how to take the base out. The one that I found was from an older model Sportage, and it was talking about a retaining bolt that came through the back here, but my car didn't seem to have it. And sure enough, it doesn't have it. It's literally just held in by two clips at the front. So you just have to get your hand sort of underneath like this and quickly jerk it up, and it releases the clips. And then you've got a couple of wires for the heated rear seats and seatbelt pretensers, etc. So once you've got all that bits out, and then obviously remove the panel trim, that once you've got all those bits out, you can remove the bolts for the rear seats. The rear seat section comes out, and then you get this plastic off to get into where you need to run your wires. So that was relatively straightforward, but it took a little bit longer than I was anticipating. Then it was a case of running in the wires, which is not too difficult. There's a grommet hole already pre-drilled at the back there, and the kit came with an appropriate sized grommet to fit the hole, so it sort of feed the cable down to the plug and wire in the plug as per the instructions. Really, there's one bit that caught me out. I'll mention that in a minute. And then feed the wires up. I've not tidied this up yet, so it still needs to be wrapped and sort of secured, but I've got them all working. In the instructions it there's two leads that go back to the fuse box, and the fuse box is located in the front driver compartment, just at sort of your right hand knee. The instructions talk about running the cable up the left hand side of the car and then come across the dash. I'm not sure how you would get from the left to the right where the fuse box is. What I did was ran it down here and then underneath the carpet, because I had the back bench out anyway. I've taken it across the car here, stuffed it under here. If you can see it, it's stuffed under there. And you see it there just. And then under here, managed to feed it from there to the next section. Had to remove this section, which again just pops out, it's just clips. And had to pop out this section, the handle just pops off, and then again this pops off, there's no screws. And then that let me run the two cables with the sort of fuse tap off things into the fuse box as per the instructions. So that was, yeah, just a case of routing it. And when it came to wiring it, relatively self-explanatory, but the pictures in the guide aren't the best. You've got two earths which go up here. That was easy enough. There's two wires that go into the CAN bus system. This wasn't 100% clear. It wasn't clear which wires in the CAN bus. I actually don't think it matters. I think any green and orange pair is probably okay, but I checked on the forum and somebody said use the outmost pair, which is what I've done, and it's working fine, so I would go with that. There's a green wire here that taps off into the green wire at the back. That was easy enough. That was green for green, so that was pretty straightforward. The other one that threw me was the fuse box, the fog light. In the instructions it sort of suggests that you tap into it here, and it talks about a blue and orange wire. Well, it depends on the age of Sportage, depending on the year, so it sort of keeps you right in the instructions. But for this year it was talking about a blue and orange wire. I couldn't actually see a blue and orange wire. To me this was a blue and brown, it looked like to me, but you know, it's hard to tell the difference between brown and orange sometimes when it's such a sort of small speckle. So I tapped into the only blue and, well, what I thought was brown rather than orange wire, and it was the wrong wire. Hence why I've put this back together now. Now what I had to do is actually, it didn't actually make sense to tap onto it up here. So that's when you look closer, there's actually 3 wires the same colour. So when you come down to this section where it goes through the boot, I traced the wire back from the fuse, from the fog light, to work out which one it was. So it is, I mean, it is still blue and orange. It is the, or blue and brown, whatever it looks like. It is right off. There's 2 in here, so it's a bit of a 50-50 guess, unless you've got one of those devices that shows the current going through when the fog light's on. But I was able to work it out from tracing the cable back. It took a little bit longer, and then teed into that as per the instruction. So there's, you know, an out and an in, if that makes sense. And I think that's so that the fog light doesn't come on when you've got a trailer attached to the car, but obviously the fog light in the car would come on when you don't have the trailer attached. I think that was really it. Yeah, the thing that caught me out on the wiring was that fog light wiring. There was I'll just bring the guide up here and very quickly show you. Yeah, it was this section here. So the blue wire goes to pin 2, which was straightforward enough, and that's the fog light signal. But what I wasn't clear about was this blue and black wire, which says 2A. Now there's not a pin 2A on the plug, but what actually there was on the plug was like a, it doesn't really show you in this diagram, but there was like, you had your 13 pins, but then you had almost what you would call the 14th one on the outside, just on the edge. It was sort of raised from the rest, and that seems to be pin 2A. That's where I put the blue and black wire, and my fog lights are working as expected. And from what I can work out, the sort of 2A and 2 pin are interlinked. If you put the continuity tester between the 2, you get you know, current crossing. So but the rest of it was kind of as per the instructions, but just those sort of few bits caught me out in terms of how to wire that plug 2A, which wires to cut into for the fog lights, which you know, the instructions weren't clear enough. And yeah, even if they were, without having a means to test which wire has current going through it when you turn the fog light on, which I didn't have, that was a bit of a tricky one. Campus wiring, like I say, I use the outside pair, that seems to work. The green one was straightforward enough, and then just the challenge of getting the seats out and the cables ran through. So yeah, hopefully that's a little bit of a help. Sorry that took nearly 9 minutes, slightly longer than I thought it would take to explain it, but if that's of any use, if you're sort of wanting to take on the kit yourself, like I say, that's the PF Jones dedicated wiring kit for this car. Thanks, bye.